A whistleblower at Coca-Cola has leaked images from a sensitivity training slideshow that implore the audience to be, quote, less white. Goodbye, pastel polo shirts. Au revoir, cucumber sandwiches. Penny loafers, I think I will miss you most of all. But if woke corporations say that I need to be less white, then dagnabbit, I'm going to be less white. Do I count as white? This is a perennial question for those of us of Sicilian, more broadly Southern Italian descent. We're a little dusky, as the poets used to say. You know, we're a little swarthy. So are we white? Probably by the standards of a neo-Nazi or some racialist. Probably we're not all that white. You know, when Italians first came to America, Italians were broadly considered to be black. It depended on what area of the country you were in. Southern Italians were the victims of the largest mass lynching in American history. So, you know, probably, I don't know, not so white. But then by the standards of the woke left, definitely white. So I suppose I'm kind of caught in the middle here. And regardless, I'm sure Coca-Cola would like me to be less white. The company is sort of denying that they had this sensitivity training. I say sort of denying it because what they're saying is that this slide that the whistleblower leaked, this was not a mandatory aspect and a lesson of the training, but it was part of the platform that Coca-Cola had the employees use. So it's kind of like a denial, non-denial. In any case, sort of sounds like mealy-mouthed corporate talk. For they did it. This is the sort of thing they're doing. So the slides included typical platitudes that you see today with woke, politically correct culture. Confronting racism, understanding what it means to be white, challenging what it means to be racist. Okay, this is the kind of bland thing we've seen before. Another slide. In the U.S. and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they are inherently superior because they are white. Now, this one I'm a little more skeptical of. You know, we don't see mandatory corporate and university trainings to tell people of other races how terrible they are and how awful their race is. We don't see other races becoming a popular and socially accepted synonym for bad. You know, we don't see calls to eliminate Asianness or abolish blackness or anything like that. But you do see those same calls for whiteness. So I think that second bullet point, BS. And then the third one, this is the one that's really gotten Coca-Cola in trouble. Try to be less white. And this is the point I've made on this show a number of times, and I know a bunch of left-wingers who hate watch and hate listen to my show. They do it just because they're masochists. They want to get their blood up in the morning or something. They have criticized this point. They've said, Michael, it is crazy for you to believe that white and whiteness has become a synonym in our politically correct culture for bad. But of course it is. You know, when we analyze the history of this country, in a more sophisticated time, we would have referred to concepts like original sin. We would have referred to the tradition and how certain prejudices come down the line and they're no good and we have to get rid of them. But because we don't have that moral language anymore, we don't have a coherent moral framework, everything is blamed on white supremacy or systemic white racism. And that's why we have to abolish whiteness. And it's just a stand-in, a physical stand-in for the metaphysical concept of evil. I do want to give these left-wingers their due here, though. There is some precedent for what they're doing. I actually kind of understand the logic, which is that in the past, maybe if you've watched old movies, you would have heard this. The word white was used as a synonym for good or virtuous. So, and you more frequently would read this in old literature or hear this in an old movie, but you might hear the phrase, that's mighty white of you, meaning, you know, that's mighty good of you, that's mighty virtuous of you. And so what the left-wingers are doing is they're not bringing the word back to a kind of value neutrality. They're not bringing the word back to not connote virtue or vice. What they're doing is they're taking a word that in the distant past was used to mean virtue, and they're now using it to mean vice. So how is one to be less white? Let's say we take Coca-Cola's challenge and demand, and we say, okay, I'm going to try to be less white. What does that mean? Well, according to the slideshow, it means to be less oppressive, to be less arrogant, to be less certain, to be less defensive, to be less ignorant, to be more humble, to listen, to believe, to break with apathy, to break with white solidarity. Wow. Man, being white is pretty terrible, according to Coca-Cola. But even if you believe their description, even if you take that for what it's worth, notice how you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because all of these demands that are being made in the process of being less white, they're contradictory, right? On the one hand, they say, be less certain. And then almost immediately afterward, they say, believe. Break with apathy. How can you be less certain and believe? To be less certain is to embrace a kind of radical skepticism. But then to believe, and you hear this in other kind of left-wing public campaigns, they'll say, believe all women. Not weigh the evidence and, give women the benefit of the doubt, but still, take them seriously. No, just believe all women. So be less certain, be more certain. But what they're really saying is be less certain of your views, be more certain of our views. And one of those views, by the way, goes in here, is this kind of radical skepticism. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Michael Knowles Show. To check out the full episode, hit the link in the description or download the Michael Knowles Show wherever you listen to podcasts.